Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Lawrence, and I am the GM of North America for Galen Growth, the go-to partner for digital health innovation, trusted by leading pharmas, insurers, investors, healthcare systems, consulting, medical device, and other companies. We cover the globe and have offices in Europe, US, and Asia. Our platform, Health Tech Alpha, is the world's leading platform for digital health private market data, intel, and insights. The platform has more digital health ventures than any other platform, more information on each of the individual ventures, with approximately 16,000 digital health ventures and over 300 million data points. The platform has best-in-class taxonomy and tagging, better search results than even Google, enabling our users to save thousands of hours on research time. All of this backed by our team of unmatched digital health experts. The platform powers our Fortune 500 advisory work and our sought after thematic reports, such as the briefing we will be covering here today. I will post the link up in the chat as we go along here today on the briefing. Today's focus is on a one-of-a-kind analysis on digital health innovation in oncology. This is an in-depth study of digital health innovation in a key therapeutic area. The premium report has over 70 pages of data, intel, and unmatched insight. The report is also available to paid Health Tech Alpha subscribers on their platform. The scope of today's analysis is all digital health ventures incorporated after 2002 and private. Any questions during the briefing, please pop those into the Q&A and we'll be happy to answer them. Today I have joining me Sarah Schmachtenberg, the head of data and analytics for Galen Growth. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Lawrence.
Today, so Sarah, in our last briefing, which was earlier this month, if I recall correctly, we covered funding strength during last briefing, and we know that for Q1 2023, funding was down substantially across the globe. In North America, only 48% of the ventures had raised funding in the last 18 months. Now we're looking at oncology, a key therapeutic area. Why is the latest report focused on digital health innovation in oncology?
Thanks, Lawrence. It's a good question, and hopefully that's why everyone's here today. We at Galen Growth have actually repeatedly focused on oncology because it is one of the top areas in digital health, right? It's one of the top funded areas in digital health, and it's one of the largest therapeutic areas in digital health. It's really because we work with a lot of pharma companies, a lot of insurance companies, and health systems, right? We get to really get in depth when people are looking for oncology, and through Health Tech Alpha, we have a lot of the data to help do the scouting projects and help do the landscaping. And like I said, oncology is a hot topic. It always has been a hot topic in digital health, and that's why we really wanted to focus on it for one of our reports in 2003.
All right. So, as again, we were talking about as I was talking about, I should say, the funding strength report we just put out. We know what the state is globally across all the different therapeutic areas and stuff like that. For digital health ventures focused on oncology, what is the current state of VC funding?
Well, unfortunately, in our key insights page, you see in not so pretty numbers, minus 88% venture funding. That's across the board. And the specific therapeutic areas have been hit the hardest, right? Health management solutions perhaps hit the least hard. So in detail here, let's look at the numbers. What I was talking about earlier, oncology has remained on top, right, since 2018 as the highest funded therapeutic area within digital health, which says a lot about its strength. It's also a very research intensive area. So it needs a lot of funding, right? In 2021, it almost got knocked out by mental health, but it didn't. It managed to stay on top. Now we're in Q1 2023. That's the data that we took, was at the end of Q1. And unfortunately, you don't see the pink dot anymore. We still have 3 quarters to make that up, right? You'll see, if you look in the detailed report, you see the quarter-on-quarter funding. Q1 hasn't always been the strongest for oncology, right? I do think that the funding will pick up over the next 3 quarters for oncology, there's no reason to think that it's not going to remain in the top 5, at least probably in the top 3 therapeutic areas. But at the moment, the funding is basically bottomed out, hopefully bottomed out, right, for oncology. And neurology is currently taking the top spot for therapeutic areas.
So, okay, so in the view of the current funding environment, what are we likely then to, what are likely the implications for digital health ventures in oncology, since that's what we're seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talk about this at Gaelic Growth all the time, and is that when you had a maturing of the digital health space over the last 2 years, funding pouring in, right? A lot of ventures took the opportunity to get the funding, build out the product portfolio, right? Build up their staff, and really matured. Those ventures now do have capital they raised over the past 2 years, and they're looking to continue to expand, right? Whereas the younger ventures who perhaps didn't take advantage of that funding spree or are in a critical stage of growth, they're not going to find the capital they need, right? So right now what you're seeing is the lack of venture capital will most likely lead to more acquisitions within digital health. That's the more, see, I think I have this, no? There we are, acquisitions, what you see. The more mature ventures will be acquiring the younger ventures. And that's the consolidation, and that will be building out also more of a platform portfolio for a lot of those more mature ventures, right? So it's a great opportunity, you know, if you're the optimist, to say, hey, you know, platform solutions are what we really need in digital health. We need a one-stop shop, right? We need to stop with all these siloed solutions. We need to have a solution that's going to cover the patient from the time of the diagnosis to the time that they have their treatment, right? So back to the slide I was in here. What we're looking at is the M&As, right? They really took, within oncology, there was a big focus on M&A in 2021, right? That remained, it dropped in 2022, but still remained quite strong. Although the IPOs and of course specs more or less, well, not quite disappeared, but more or less disappeared, and now they have completely disappeared. But for just the first quarter of 2023, you've already seen 7 M&As, 7 acquisitions, right? So you're seeing that big push of acquisitions in the space. If we look across the regions, you can see there's a lot less of the late stage funding going on. This is cumulative, but the state of the ventures, right? And Europe is of course Europe is the least advanced as far as funding. That's fully typical. European ventures tend to stay on that government grants, right? The government funding for a very long time. APAC, North America are much more balanced as far as the distribution of funding rounds for the ventures. If we want, I did skip over, Lawrence, if we can go back. I did talk about that that quarter-on-quarter funding here. You see the peak at the end of 2020, 22, 21 remaining strong, but still not ever managing to reach that peak of Q4 2020. As far as funding, the number of deals has nosedived, right, quarter on quarter. So there is definitely a big funding stress for the ventures in oncology. But that's pretty much across the board in digital health. So chin up, right? Keep going for the ventures in that area. We do expect that the funding will stabilize, if not improve, and it will look better in the future.
So there may be some light there. So oncology is in fact a therapeutic cluster within our taxonomy and everything else, and a very complex one. So how does Galen Growth and Health Tech Alpha monitor such a complex therapeutic area?
The depth of data that we have in Health Tech Alpha can help us not only look at oncology, but go one step further. And the word cloud you see on the right of the slide, those are all the keywords that we have for oncology ventures in Health Tech Alpha, right? You see all the different types, or many different types of cancers being discussed and solutions across the board, right? And when you talk about patient solutions, for example, you have to be very sensitive, of course, to the disease itself, right? To the culture the person's living in, to the age of the person. And so that's the advantage of digital health. You can get very specific, as you see, some of the very specific cancer types that indeed are the focus of some ventures. Back to the share of oncology ventures across the top 10 oncology subtypes. So, right, so when we look at all those subtypes, there are 22% of the ventures within oncology have solutions for breast cancer, right? So that's the top subtype that we have within digital health. The second is lung cancer, right? That's not saying that the venture focuses only on breast cancer or only on lung cancer, but at least they have a solution that's specific for that type of patient, right? Followed by colorectal cancer, gynecologic cancer, prostate, and gastric cancer, right? So those are the top 6 that you'll see coming up within digital health. But that's not to say if you're looking for a very specific type of solution, you're not going to find it, because digital health covers pretty much all of it. Now that's one way to segment within the space, right? But of course, you're not only looking for one type of very specific type of cancer, but when you're in oncology or you're looking for an oncology solution, you'll likely be looking at, okay, what types of solutions are there, right? What piece of that patient journey is going to be appropriate for you, or what do you need along that patient journey, right? And with Galen Gross digital health taxonomy, right, we look at that patient journey and we have 18 clusters. And each of those clusters is broken down into categories to describe the type of solution for each part of that journey. And so if I go to the next slide, within oncology, the largest cluster within that is medical diagnostics, right? 357 ventures, that is, so we said 500. So that is a large portion of the ventures in oncology are focused on diagnostics, including AI for medical imaging, right? Or any sort of liquid biopsy, or solutions that are helping with the diagnosis. After that, a little less than half of that is in research solutions, including bioinformatics, for example, going into a lot of getting the information from the patients back into the research labs so that they can better identify oncology. Third place is health management solutions. And in there we include personalized medicine, right? The predictive analytics, and the very specific software that doctors help them in order to diagnose a particular patient. Or no, predictive analytics is to help the doctor choose the right treatment path. Excuse me, it's not the diagnostics, it's the treatment path that's included in health management solutions, right? Patient solutions and telemedicine fill out that top 5. So that's what the types of solutions look like within oncology.
Okay, so based upon all the funding information and stuff that you said, is it all doom and gloom for digital health and oncology, or is Galen Gross seeing some positives?
Well, funding doesn't look good, like you said, but the positive is we have seen an uptick in partnerships, right? And really, funding's great. It helps a venture build, and it helps them do their research. But the partnerships is what really helps them get their solution into the market, right? So get that solution to patients themselves. And partnerships within themselves can help to generate revenue, which is important if you don't have funding coming in. So what you see from in the last 4 years, that increase of partnerships, right, growing. Yes, Q1 came down from Q4, but it's still up from Q1 2022, right? So I wouldn't worry about the dip that you see there in partnerships. And as far as the total number of partnerships within digital health, right, oncology has remained at 19%. So in the full report, you'll see oncology ventures make up about 6% of the digital health ecosystem overall. but it makes up almost or 19% of the partnerships, right? So it's taking a larger share of partnerships than is actual representation within digital health. Fantastic. You have a lot of great things going on for Oncology Ventures with 126 partnerships announced just this year so far, right? It's great to see, and it's very promising to see that these solutions are finding a path into the market that may be possible with lean funding.
So with oncology being such a critical area, therapeutic area, in terms of proof points and clinical evidence, what are we seeing with digital health ventures? What are they up to in the therapeutic area of oncology in terms of proof points and clinical evidence?
Yeah. Sorry, this one's still in partnerships. So let's look at regulatory filings, because those give you pretty strong proof points there. The regulatory filings for Q1 2023, there were 10 regulatory filings in Europe. So Europe has definitely taken the lead there as far as what's going on, and continuing the momentum, right, of trying to get these solutions to patients. Overall, the quarter has been quite weak, but when you look at the filings that have been done, 51% of those regulatory filings were achieved by Oncology Ventures and Medical Diagnostics Solution. So really here, you see the focus being on the medical diagnostics cluster. It's not really surprising, because you saw that the largest portion of ventures are in medical diagnostics, so you wouldn't really expect to see anything different. But medical diagnostics is also something that requires regulatory approvals, right? If you get down to, for example, telemedicine, if it's a software solution connecting a doctor to a patient, it's not going to require any sort of regulatory filing. So what you see is somewhat to be expected. Medical diagnostics has 51% of the regulatory filings since 2018. 18% research solutions, and 10% within the clinical trials space, right? And those are going into the decentralized clinical trials and other portions of solutions that can be used for the clinical trials space. Now, keep in mind, if a solution is used in a clinical trial, then that can also be attributed to the vendor itself. That's how we track them within Health Tech Alpha. Right. So there's still a lot of activity going on, Lawrence, in regulatory files as well. We track clinical evidence through an evidence score. And I think in the full report, you'll look into that, and you can see evidence score includes peer-reviewed publications. It includes regulatory filings, which you see, as well as clinical trials. So take a look into the report, and you'll be able to see then the activity as far as clinical evidence and beyond, right, just the regulatory filings.
Okay. Well, now that we've taken a look at the global overview, can we do a little deeper dive into North America, since most of our audience here is from North America? And what does the investment landscape look like for digital health innovation in oncology in North America?
Yeah, if you have an interest in anything outside of North America, tomorrow we'll be covering Europe on a different time zone, of course. But looking at North America, right, 8% of all ventures in North America have solutions in oncology, right? So it's not even making up 10%. It's a small percentage of the ventures within North America, and that's still growing at a 7% CAGR. So you still have new ventures being incorporated every year. And actually that CAGR, I think, for the global is 3 or 4%. So North America is growing at a higher rate than the rest of the globe. All right, so there's still a lot going on as far as new ventures. But when we go into then the funding, of course, about 94% of the funding going on in North America is in the US, right? There's a small percentage in Canada and very little in Mexico. Sorry, those are the number of ventures. There are a few in Mexico and about, 5% in Canada. The funding this quarter has been, I think, 99% in the US. the funding rounds, again, the different types of funding across the past 5 years. You see the peak that happened in 2021, expected, especially with that Series D and beyond funding, right? The funding rounds, the value of the ticket size for each of those funding rounds is just through the roof, right? There were mega deals coming out of everyone's ears, and that has completely stopped in Q1, right? There was one Series D funding round in the US, and the ticket size was something less than 50 million, right? So completely different situation, right? You have the early stage funding has been relatively constant. Yeah, it's doubled plus or minus, but it's stayed right at least about 100 million each year. So that gives those early stage ventures, the newly incorporated ventures, some what do you call it, fuel to go on. But the rest of the funding stages really have decreased significantly. We can say bottomed out. As far as the volume share, the number of investments in each stage, right? It's funny. The Series D and beyond funding have maintained their volume share pretty much across the past 5 years, which is a bit unique. There's not a really good explanation as to why that is, right? But this is funding share. So there's consistently, there are consistently rounds being raised by ventures in those late stages. Whereas the share of early stage has gone down slightly. But again, there's still plenty of early stage funding there for ventures when they need it. So that's kind of the picture that we have of North America itself, and what's been going on this quarter as well as the past 5 years.
Okay, so now that we've taken a look at funding, who's been the most prolific in partnering with digital health ventures in the therapeutic area of oncology?
Well, you caught me because I skipped one of the slides up top, so we can look at that real quick and look at global partnerships, and then we can go specifically into North America if we want. Global partnerships are nearly 50% in medical diagnostics. Of course, as mentioned before, this kind of reflects that almost 50% of the ventures are in medical diagnostics, right? So that's pretty proportional, to be honest. Research solutions, health management solutions, patient solutions is a little bit low, but it's also a smaller area as far as venture volume. Who's partnering is really interesting, right? 33% you're looking at is hospitals, institutions, academia, right? So a lot of that partnering is going into the hospitals and medical universities. A third of them, right? 15% are the venture-to-venture partnerships, right? Which is very good when it comes to getting rid of those silos, right? And getting more cohesive solutions. 11% then are in pharma and biotech, right? Followed by tech ventures. Tech ventures, we'll see later. NVIDIA is one of the top 5 companies for partnering with digital health ventures. It's a tech company, more popular in Europe and APAC. And they help on the tech side. They help the ventures on the tech side, getting those big data solutions and helping them with the data analytics, right? So that's where the tech companies come in. North America, 50% of the partnerships are in North America, and Asia Pacific takes the top spot, right? So there's still a lot of activity going on in Asia Pacific. Most activity, of course, is happening in the US. Which is where a lot of funding is coming from, and the majority of the ventures are there. Now, you'd asked about the specifically who you want me to name names. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into Health Tech Alpha and show you. If we look at, not investors, we're going to look at corporates. This shows me who's partnering with digital health ventures, right? And so I have a list of over 10,000, almost 11,000 partners within digital health, of course, in different industry verticals, right? Including accelerators are in there. And I can put in, I type in my therapeutic focus area of oncology. we get to see then who's partnering with oncology focused ventures. And then what comes up on top are the big pharma companies, right? AstraZeneca, Roche. We'll skip over Y Combinator, they're an accelerator, so they're kind of in a different category. We're working on getting them separated in Health Tech Alpha, but they're still there. AstraZeneca, Roche, Novartis, Pfizer, right? The top four. So we talked about that before, and the number of partnerships they have in oncology is, you're looking at big numbers, right? Which is good. NVIDIA takes the number 5 place, those tech companies that are really focused on helping ventures with their tech solutions, right? Number 6, you don't see in the report, but here you can start to see then goes into Mayo Clinic, right? So those universities and the hospitals that really helps get the solutions to the patients. Right? That's what's going on. If we wanted to, we could look only at North America, and then refine the filter a little bit more. I haven't done that yet, but there you is a good look to see. And here we're talking about who's partnering with oncology ventures that were founded in North America, right? So Mayo Clinic comes up on top of the list, followed by then the big pharma companies, and then Memorial Sloan Kettering, the cancer center. So it's a good look. You get a peek into Health Tech Alpha, how it can be used. From here, there obviously lots of opportunities. Hopefully you guys have all used your pro trial, taken advantage of your pro trial and been able to hop into the platform yourselves, look into the ventures, see the depth of the data that we have there, and kind of play around with what you can do with the data within Health Tech Alpha.
Well,
how's that look, Lauren? Does that make sense?
That was wonderful. Thank you very much for that. It doesn't look like we're having any questions. Are there any questions? It doesn't look like we have too many questions today, and that may be a good thing. We're kind of running out of time here. But if there's any questions, ask now. And thanks everybody. Thank you everybody for joining. Don't forget to take a look at the report. There is an executive summary report that is free, or if you become a Health Tech Alpha subscriber, you can download the 70+ page deep dive report. And we'll find even more detail than we were able to cover during this briefing. Again, as Sarah was saying, also please take a look at Health Tech Alpha. There is a 7-day free pro trial. If you log in, you can actually browse the platform for 7 days free of charge. So take a look at that as well. And again, I put the link for our research page where you will find all our reports. There are some that are free and others are only available to the Health Tech Alpha subscribers. And so thank you everybody for joining us today, and thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Lawrence. Thanks to everyone out there. Have a good.
Wait. It looks like we have a question here.
Are the ventures that are interventional versus workflow focused? Absolutely. That goes into our taxonomy that we saw. You saw well, we have our taxonomy. You saw the clusters and categories. But you can also go into the value proposition. Are they adherence? Are they focused on adherence? Are they focused on diagnosis, treatment, right, or clinical workflow? So I think that's where, if you go into Health Tech Alpha, you can filter through the oncology ventures and look for and you can filter out actually the workflow ventures if you want, or you can focus more on the diagnosis, treatment types of ventures, right? So you can do that all within Health Tech Alpha, definitely. And Lawrence, I just clicked into Mayo Clinic just because I was curious and thought maybe some of the people out there would be curious. The number of partnerships they've formed, 1, 2, 3, 7 partnerships just in this year. So there's a lot going on still for oncology ventures and digital health.
And that's
awesome. Thanks, Karin, for the question.
Anybody else? Any questions? We don't want to leave any questions unanswered here. I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. Well, thank you everybody again for joining us today. We appreciate you attending and look forward to the next one. Oh, and our next one will be coming up soon. Our next briefing on the area within cardiovascular diseases report. Correct, Sarah?
That's right.
And so that'll be coming up soon. Keep a lookout for that. We'll be having a briefing on that, and the report will be released soon. So thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon, great evening.
Bye.
I'm going to stop recording.